Hi, online students. We are down to the end, and so I wanted to talk to you about your last unit, your drama unit, and some final exam things. Okay, so your fifth unit, drama, centers on the play Trifles. Susan Glassbell also has a short story called A Jury of Her Peers, which is the same storyline. So you can find that on YouTube. Let me click in your eLearn and make sure it's not already. Nope, okay, it's not already there. So if you go to YouTube and type in, I think you can search Trifles and see if it comes up that way, but you can also search A Jury of Her Peers, Jury, A Jury of Her Peers, and you'll be able to find an adaptation that you can watch that's like 29 minutes long. I think that will be really helpful to sort of see it played out beyond just reading it, although you will have to read it for discussion, reading response essays, but I think it'll just be helpful. So your discussion 5 says, consider how certain objects and the setting in Trifles mirror characters' internal conflicts. So objects would be things like the bird, the cage, the quilt, the table that's half wiped down, worried that the jars are going to burst in the cold. So all of that can really be symbolic, especially of what's happening internally with Minnie Wright. If you watch the YouTube adaptation, the names of the characters are a little bit different. So please refer to them by their names in Trifles, not the video. Setting, so you can look at the state that the farmhouse is in. So like the table not being fully wiped down, or just things that are in disarray. So you can also look at things like how the bird is in that box, tucked away. After it's been killed, it's saved, but it's like put somewhere. So all of that can be really symbolic. The setting, also consider, I'm trying to remember correctly, I believe that the house is like isolated quite a bit. There's a lot of space between houses, so someone could be your neighbor, but they're actually pretty far away. So that can also kind of be symbolic. So in the discussion, you want to talk about how the physical details, the staging, right, what it looks like, and physical objects, how all of that sort of connects with what's happening internally with people. So you're not analyzing dialogue. You're analyzing what things look like and things that you can see and touch, and how those things sort of are representative of feelings and thoughts, right? So that's your discussion post. Now, your reading response asks you to talk about the structure itself. So it says, Trifles is not a traditional Greek tragedy. However, many of the elements Aristotle notes in Poetics are evident in Glassbell's work. Identify 2 or 3 of these tragic elements of theater and argue for their importance in Trifles. How do they underscore the theme of the play? So you will read the Poetics Aristotle that's on your eLearn, and you're going to make connections with Trifles. So Trifles is a 1-act play, but there are still some elements of Greek tragedy in that. So you're going to try to make connections between those two. Now, I don't think that reading response 5 connects quite as well to your essay prompt, but the discussion post that you do can actually be sort of the seed of your last essay. So whatever you talk about in your discussion post, I would expand on that for your essay. Reading response 5 doesn't help too much in that, except it asks you how did these elements of tragedy successfully underscore the themes of the play, and you will have to talk about themes in your last essay. So themes, remember, it's not just gender roles, like what about gender roles, or gender expectations, or things that are important to women versus men, or it has to be like, what is Glassbell saying? Like, what is her point? What does she want to communicate? That's a theme. So theme and topic are not exactly the same. The topic might be gender, but like, what is she saying about gender? That statement that she's making, that's her theme. So just be sure to note the difference and talk about them in that way. Okay, your essay prompt for essay 5 says choose 2 or 3 objects from trifles that could have meaning beyond their literal use and write an essay analyzing the significance of these symbols. This is essentially discussion 5 turned into a full essay. How do these symbols reveal or highlight other literary elements such as character or theme? In discussion 5, it's asking you how does the setting and how do the physical objects, how are those symbolic of a character's internal struggles or internal conflicts? That is essentially the exact same question. So you can very easily turn discussion 5 into an essay. If it's 2 or 3 objects, I would make those 2 or 3 objects your body paragraphs. So if you want to talk about each piece of each physical thing, whether it's part of the setting or an object, just go through and say, like, okay, this physical object represents this or is a symbol for this in the play. Connect those things to a character development, character psychology, themes, that kind of things. The next option is perception of gender, or perceptions of gender play a significant role in the text. The story's plot and central meaning revolve around different ways in which male and female characters operate in their society. Write an essay examining how gender stereotypes are used by Glaspell to convey the theme of the play. I think this one's a little bit harder because it's hard to be as specific. The first prompt, very easy to get specific and concrete. This one's a little bit more abstract, and so I think it's harder to do a good job with it, but it definitely can be done. There are some really good articles out there. So I want to sort of help you with that just a little bit because it's your last paper. So when you're searching the databases, search Susan Glaspell, search trifles, but also search a jury of her peers. There's a biographer, Linda Ben-Zvi. Let me make sure I've got this right. Let me check my files here because I have quite a bit on Glaspell. That's not it. Here we go. Linda Ben-Zvi. Linda, and then middle name Ben, and then last name Zvi. She has a biography on Glaspell, and I think it's really useful. Also, there's a good article about gender in trifles called Silent Justice in a Different Key, Glaspell's Trifles. So that one's by Susie Clarkston Holstein from Midwest Quarterly. You can find that through the databases. You can use the main search box through the library, but you will have better luck if you go to specific literary databases. So in the main search box, do an advanced search, let me back up. Don't do advanced search. Go to where you can choose a database and change it from all subjects to literature. And then check like Literature Resource Center, JSTOR. There's several there. So those literary databases don't always show up when you just search the main search box on the library page. They should, but they're not very well indexed, which means the links are not great. So they might show up through the main search, but you'll find more, I think, if you go to a literary specific database. So I hope that's helpful for this last paper. You're really just writing about one work, and so I think that makes it a lot easier. You do have to use 2 secondary sources in your paper, but that can be like that biography that I talked about, Linda Ben-Zvi's biography called Susan Glaspell, Her Life and Times. That's available as an ebook through our library. So books are perfect. Scholarly articles are perfect for this paper. What else do I want to tell you? All of the essay drop boxes have been reopened. So if you would like to revise your lowest essay for a higher grade, you can do that. Put your revision in the same box highlight what you've changed. If you've added, highlight it. If you have edited, highlight it. If you've taken things out, you can either strike through and highlight the strike through. That would be helpful for me to see really quickly at a glance where you've taken stuff out. Or you could just type, maybe in parentheses, took out some stuff right here and highlight that. I just need to be able to see really quickly at a glance. It'll just make the grading part a lot faster. And I'm sure you would like to just be done and have your grade for the class over with. So as soon as you finish the stuff, you're done with the class. The revisions are totally optional. You do not have to do that if you're happy with your grade at this point. You don't have to do a revision, but I want to give everybody that option to take your lowest essay grade and revise it. Most people don't go up any more than like 10 points. And to go up 10 points, you really have to significantly revise it, like really put in a lot of work. If you just edit it, like you go back to the rubric where I filled it out, and you just make small changes, that's not worth 10 points. That's not worth an entire letter grade. That's just editing and proofreading. But if you actually revise, you add content, you sort of reimagine the prompt, you sort of reframe your thesis, which should affect the entire paper. You integrate your source materials better, all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is worth 10 points. So yeah, I will regrade it. Just put it in the same box as the original, and that needs to be done by the end of the course. So happy writing, good luck. If there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. If you have questions about your grade, let me know. I'm happy to help. All right, happy writing.